There is a single moment in A Dance with Dragons. No fanfare, no dramatic music cue, no big speech, just a man walking in the snow, a cloak flapping behind him. He stops. He looks Theon Greyjoy in the eyes and says 6 words. Theon Turncloak, Theon Kinslayer. And he laughs and he walks away. That is it. That is the entire encounter. George R.R. Martin never names this man, never explains who he is, never brings him back. And yet, over a decade later, the ASOIAF fandom is still fighting about who that hooded figure is. Today, we are going to dig into one of the most genuinely fascinating unsolved mysteries in the entire series. We are going to look at the real murders happening in Winterfell, the web of conspiracies operating in the shadows, the most compelling theories about the hooded man's identity, and then we are going to ask the question that most people skip over entirely. Does it even matter who he is? To understand the hooded man, you need to understand just how volatile Winterfell is during A Dance with Dragons. The Boltons have taken the castle. Ramsay Bolton just married a girl they are publicly calling Arya Stark, though she is actually a girl named Jane Poole. Stannis Baratheon's army is camped in the snow nearby, preparing to attack, and the Boltons have crammed Winterfell full of supposed allies from northern houses who, under the surface, mostly want to see the Boltons dead. You have Wyman Manderly there, the man who gave a speech pledging loyalty to the Boltons and then, in secret, had 3 Freys killed and baked into pies. Wyman is running an anti-Bolton conspiracy. He is coordinating with Stannis. He is not subtle about it if you know where to look. Then you have the Umbers. Great Umber, called Horsebane, is inside the castle. Moore's Crowfoot Umber is stationed outside the walls. These 2 brothers are both said to have tensions with the Boltons. Crowfoot is openly allied with Stannis. And then you have Theon, who is barely a person anymore. Ramsay has broken him completely. He is starved, missing fingers and toes, psychologically shattered. He wanders the castle at night like a ghost among ghosts. Because for Theon, Winterfell is literally haunted. It is where he grew up. It is where he betrayed the Starks. And now he is living in the ruins of everything he destroyed. All of this is the backdrop. This is the storm the hooded man walks through. Before we talk about the mysterious hooded figure, we need to talk about what is actually happening in the castle, because people keep assuming the hooded man is the murderer. He probably is not. A series of people turn up dead in Winterfell. A Ryswell soldier is found with a broken neck. A Frey squire is found naked in the graveyard. A Flint soldier dies in the stables. One of Ramsay's friends, a man called Yellow Dick, is found with his own anatomy stuffed into his mouth. And then 9-year-old little Walder Frey turns up dead, which causes the Freys and Manderlys to start physically brawling, which forces Roose Bolton to send them both out to fight Stannis, which is very conveniently exactly what Stannis wanted. Now look at the victims. Most of them are connected to houses that are genuinely loyal to the Boltons. The Ryswells, the Freys, Ramsay's inner circle. Someone is deliberately targeting Bolton loyalists to sow chaos from the inside. The wildling women are almost certainly responsible for most of these killings. Mance Rayder brought 6 women into the castle as part of a mission to rescue Jane Poole. Jon Snow sent them. Melisandre helped arrange it. These are not helpless women, they are fighters, and during Theon and Jane's eventual escape, they kill multiple guards with brutal efficiency. When Theon directly accuses them, Rowan, one of the wildlings, denies killing little Walder but basically admits to the others. And the specific nature of some of the deaths, particularly the naked Frey squire and Yellow Dick, strongly suggests the women used their proximity and sexuality to get these men into vulnerable positions before killing them. So who killed little Walder? Almost certainly his 9-year-old cousin, Big Walder Frey. Big Walder is one of the quietly disturbing characters in the series. He obsessively tracks the Frey succession, talks casually about what it would take to move up the line of inheritance, and when little Walder's body is found, Big Walder's gloves are soaked in blood. GRRM does not do that by accident. So the murders are mostly solved. Wildlings did most of them. Big Walder did one. The Flint soldier was probably just a horse accident, which means the hooded man is something else entirely. Here is the actual passage. Theon is walking through Winterfell alone at night during a blizzard. He encounters a man in a hooded cloak walking in the opposite direction. They come face to face. The man puts his hand on his dagger. He calls Theon a Turncloak and a Kinslayer. Theon, strangely, is not afraid. He shows the man his ruined left hand, the fingers gone from Ramsay's torture. The man laughs, and then he walks away. 3 things about this scene are worth sitting with. 1. Theon is not afraid. That is the word Martin uses. Oddly, he was not afraid. For a man who has been flinching at shadows, who has been psychologically destroyed, who jumps at the sound of Ramsay's name, not being afraid of this threatening stranger is notable. 2. The man knows who Theon is. He recognizes him on sight at night in a storm. He knows his crimes well enough to list them. 3. 2 specific accusations. Turncloak, Kinslayer, not just 1, 2. Turncloak is obvious. Everyone in the North knows what Theon did to the Starks. But Kinslayer requires a specific belief that Theon murdered Bran and Rickon, whom he considered foster brothers after years of growing up in Winterfell. That tells us something about who this person is. They are someone who saw the Starks as Theon's family and who genuinely believes he killed them. There are many candidates for the hooded man. Let us go through the most compelling ones. Harwin. Harwin is probably the most emotionally satisfying theory. He was one of Ned Stark's guards. He taught Arya, Jon, and Robb to ride horses. He was a familiar face at Winterfell for years. He ended up with the Brotherhood without banners after being ambushed with Beric Dondarrion. He reunited with Arya when she was captured by the Brotherhood, and that reunion was one of the few genuinely warm moments in her arc during that period. He knew Theon personally from their years overlapping at Winterfell. By Book 4, Harwin is with Lady Stoneheart, the resurrected version of Catelyn Stark who is hunting anyone connected to the Red Wedding and searching for her children. Stoneheart would have heard the news that a girl being called Arya Stark just married Ramsay Bolton. If she sent anyone to investigate or rescue that girl, Harwin is the obvious choice. He knows Winterfell's layout. He knows Theon. He would absolutely call Theon a Kinslayer for what he believed Theon did to Bran and Rickon. The argument against Harwin is that Theon would recognize him. They spent years in the same castle, but Martin does establish a pattern of missed recognitions in Theon's arc. Theon fails to recognize his own sister, Asha, early on, and Arya herself struggled to recognize Harwin when she saw him because he had grown a beard and lost weight. Theon is a broken, traumatized shell of himself during these chapters. Missing a face is not impossible. Hallis Mollen was the captain of Winterfell's guard under Ned Stark. After the Red Wedding, Catelyn gave him one specific job: take Ned's bones north and bury them in the crypt at Winterfell. He disappears from the story after that. If Hal was blocked at Moat Cailin by the Ironborn occupation, he could have ended up in the vicinity of Greywater Watch, home of Howland Reed. That opens up the possibility of Hal being drawn into deeper conspiracies. He knows Theon. He knew the Starks personally. He has a reason to want to return to Winterfell, literally carrying the bones of his lord. The argument against Hal is his personality. Catelyn specifically describes him as having a loose tongue and a tendency to loudly state the obvious. He does not sound like someone built for quiet infiltration and midnight encounters. But people can surprise you, especially when they have something important enough to protect. Robert Glover has strong motivation. Roose Bolton sent him into a trap at Duskendale during Robb's war. His wife and children were taken hostage by the Greyjoys. By Book 5, he is actively conspiring with Wyman Manderly against the Boltons. He wears a cloak during those plotting scenes. He carries a dagger. The problem with Robert is simple. He knows Bran and Rickon Stark are alive. He knows Theon did not actually kill them. So why would he call Theon a Kinslayer? Unless he is referring to something else, it does not quite fit. Harrion Karstark. This is a theory that does not get enough attention. Harrion Karstark was the eldest son of Rickard Karstark and was captured by the Lannisters after the battle on the Green Fork very early in the war. He has been a prisoner at Harrenhal. The last confirmed information on him places him there. But here is what makes this interesting. By A Dance with Dragons, the Karstark situation is a mess. Harrion's uncles have declared for Stannis, presumably hoping the Lannisters would execute Harrion as a result, clearing the way for them to control Carhold. His sister Alys eventually escapes to Stannis herself and exposes the plot. If Harrion somehow escaped or was released, he would have reason to find Stannis, and finding Stannis means potentially operating around Winterfell. He would know Theon from Winterfell before the war. He would have every reason to hate him. And if the hooded man is Harrion, his eventual reveal could serve a political purpose, stepping forward to reclaim leadership of the Karstark forces once his treacherous uncles are exposed. One analyst on the ASOIAF Tumblr community, who writes under the name ASOIAF University, made a case for exactly this outcome, arguing that Harrion pulling back his hood after the Battle of Ice would be one of the more elegant political resolutions in the Winterfell chapters. Mors Crowfoot as Roger Riswell. There is a more elaborate theory that involves Mors Crowfoot actually using the glamour magic established elsewhere in A Dance with Dragons. Specifically, the Ruby Cuffs Mance Raider used to disguise himself as Abel to take on the appearance of Roger Riswell and infiltrate Winterfell that way. If true, the hooded man would be Crowfoot operating in disguise. This is creative, but it requires stacking a lot of assumptions on top of each other. It is the kind of theory that is genuinely clever but maybe too clever. Now here is the reading of this scene that I personally find most compelling, not because it replaces the others, but because it adds a layer of meaning that the purely factual readings miss. What if the hooded man is a hallucination? Not necessarily a complete delusion, but a moment where Theon's fractured mind projects something outward. Because Theon's entire arc in A Dance with Dragons is about identity. The chapter is literally called A Ghost in Winterfell. He is surrounded by ghosts. He hears voices in the Godswood. He sees Bran's face in the weirwood tree. He is not a reliable narrator of his own experience. And consider what the hooded man represents symbolically. The man is confident. He moves with purpose. He has contempt for weakness. He laughs at Theon's pain the way Theon himself used to laugh at others. In the books before Ramsay broke him, Theon was not the sad, sensitive boy the TV show portrayed. He was arrogant, smirking, and sometimes genuinely cruel. He had what the text calls a sly smile and a mocking laugh. The hooded man acts like early book Theon. In the Faith of the Seven, the deity of death appears as a hooded man called the Stranger. The Stranger is the unknown god, the one who walks between life and death, the one whose face no one can see. When Theon stands face to face with this hooded stranger and says, "The gods are not done with me," that reads like someone staring down death and choosing to live. And whether the man is real or a projection, the encounter has the same effect. Theon, called by his name, accused of his crimes, faces himself in some form and does not collapse. He does not become Reek. He stays. This is the turning point in his arc from Reek back to Theon. That does not mean the man is not physically real, but Martin is the kind of writer who does multiple things at once. The encounter can be both a real person operating in Winterfell and a psychologically significant mirror for Theon's identity crisis. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. There is one specific detail that makes the ghost theory complicated. The hooded man calls Theon a Kinslayer, but Theon, at this point in his arc, does not believe he is a Kinslayer. He knows he did not kill Bran and Rickon. So if this is a projection of his own guilt, why would his subconscious accuse him of something he does not believe he did? Unless he does, on some level, believe it. Here is the theory. When Theon could not find Bran and Rickon after they escaped Winterfell, he needed to cover up his failure. He found two other boys, roughly the same age, and had them killed and burned. He presented their remains as the Stark boys. Where did these boys come from? They were the sons of a miller's wife, a woman Theon admits to having had relations with on multiple occasions. The possibility is that those boys were Theon's sons. He killed his own children without knowing it. Martin even plants a line where Theon consciously avoids thinking about the miller's boys. He thinks there were things too hurtful to remember. That is not a throwaway detail. That is the specific language of suppressed guilt. If Theon has buried this possibility so deep that it lives below conscious thought, the hooded man calling him a Kinslayer could be that suppressed knowledge forcing its way to the surface. Is there definitive proof? No, but Martin has a documented pattern of characters doing terrible things to their own families without knowing it, a Shakespearean recurring theme throughout the series. Here is the thing that I keep coming back to. Maybe George R.R. Martin deliberately left the hooded man ambiguous, and maybe that ambiguity is not a flaw, it is the point. One analyst on the Wars and Politics of Ice and Fire blog put it well. The hooded man is someone who knows Theon for who he is, someone who still feels loyalty to the Starks and the just rule of the North they represented. Other than that, the hooded man is no one. He is a thematic device, not a plot device. The North remembers is one of the defining phrases of this part of the story. House after house that publicly pledged loyalty to the Boltons is secretly waiting for the right moment to turn on them. The memory of Ned Stark's honorable rule has not died. It just went underground, wrapped itself in a cloak, and started walking through the snow at night. The hooded man, whoever he physically is, represents all of that. He is the loyalty that survived the Red Wedding. He is the North's refusal to forget. And for Theon specifically, he is something even more personal. He is the embodiment of what Theon threw away. He is proof that the Starks were worth serving, worth protecting, worth being loyal to, and Theon chose wrong. So who is the hooded man? It is probably Harwin, or Hallis Mollen, or possibly Harrion Karstark, which is the theory I personally find most narratively satisfying given what is coming for the Karstark succession. Or maybe it is a projection of Theon's broken mind confronting his own buried guilt. What I am confident about is this. Martin put that encounter in the book for a reason. It is too precisely constructed to be filler. It says 6 words that land like a verdict. It does not explain itself, and it walks away. That is great writing. It does not need a clean answer to work. But if the Winds of Winter ever comes out and we do finally find out who was under that hood, I will be doing a full breakdown of whether any of us got it right. Drop your own theory in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If you are new here, this channel is for people who love going too deep on things. Subscribe if that sounds like your kind of problem, and I will see you in the next one.